So we're about 3 minutes into the meeting. Let's go ahead and get started. We've got some new people on the phone. I really liked last time how we used the hand-raising system within the conference center under conference control. So we're going to start out with some introductions first. So I'm going to ask all of the MVPs on the call to raise their hand, and then we'll go through and do a brief introduction of the MVPs, and then we will then ask the participants to raise their hands afterwards, and those participants can then ask their questions, and we'll provide input, and we'll sort of just go around the call and make sure that we address the people who have their hands raised, and then we'll get on with it. So hi everyone, thanks for joining. This is MVP Office Hours number 8. This is a program that is run by the Salesforce.com MVPs, where we take questions and sort of stump the chump mechanism. So you can ask any questions that we have. We might not have the answers, but we'll definitely try our best to point you in the right direction. So my name is Joshua Hoskins. I'm a Salesforce MVP, and I'm also a solution architect at Aperia. Been at Aperia for about 2.5 years, and I travel the world a lot. So we'll turn it over to some of the other MVPs in the line. So I'll turn it over to Brian first. Brian, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, this is Brian. I am also a Salesforce MVP, working for CPM Healthgrades, and I do a lot of admin and miscellaneous dev stuff.
Awesome. Thanks for joining, Brian. Deepa?
Hi, this is Deepa Patel, and I'm a Salesforce MVP, and I have my own consulting practice, so I do all kinds of things from solutions architecting to implementations to data migrations to training.
Awesome. And Steve, the rebel that didn't raise his hand.
Oh.
Go ahead, Steve.
You're fine, Steve. Go ahead.
Oh, hi. I'm Steve Mullis, and if you're on Answers, you might know me as Steve Mo.
Cool. Do you have any other MVPs on?
Hey, Joshua. It's Jackie Travieso.
Hey, Jackie. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm Jackie Travieso. I'm out of Florida, and I'm an independent contractor and have been working on Salesforce.com stuff since 2006.
Awesome. Thanks for joining, Jackie.
Thanks.
Cool. So it looks like those are all our MVPs. So it looks like we have a couple of customers on the call. So if those customers that have questions could raise their hands. And what I'd like for the customers to do is before they start talking about their question, but I'd like to also understand how you found out about MVP Office Hours. There's going to be a big push in a number of weeks to start pushing this to user groups and more advertisements on Twitter as well as the Force.com community. So it'd be interesting to know how you guys specifically found out about us. And I think we have another MVP on. Rhonda, you're on? She may be on mute. All right, cool. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So there are some names that I don't recognize here, and I'll just go ahead and start picking on them then. So Eric, are you on? Can you hear us, Eric?
Yes, I'm here.
Hey, Eric, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good. So I heard you found out about MVP Office Hours on Twitter, says your chat.
Yeah, this morning, actually, yeah.
Okay. Did you find it? Was it a friend of yours or was it a Salesforce tweet? Do you remember?
No, actually, I think it was an MVP. It might have been one of you guys actually that did it.
Okay, cool. So yeah, thanks for joining. You want to run into your question?
Yeah, I have a question. I haven't really used the. So let me give you a little background. So we do consulting work, but we're more strategy consulting and do help companies with evaluations and so on and so forth, and work with a lot of Salesforce, more on the sales side, the sales engineers and the AEs and management and what have you. But one thing that's coming up more a little bit in Salesforce is with workflow and the visual workflow. And I know Salesforce okay, but nowhere close to pretty much everybody on this call. And I'm wondering, kind of a business requirement comes up is really on when you're in an account per se, and you want to have the account updated with workflow actions. So what I mean is, for instance, if a case for your customer has gone from, it's filed and it's an urgent case or a certain category of case that might impede an opportunity or something else you're working on, how would you use workflow to make that happen, given that workflow is kind of narrowly focused on objects that are contained within the workflow? And again, I don't know much about visual workflow, but if you're using the standard workflow engine, is there a way to do that where the objects really don't marry together based on the choices and the standard drop-downs in the workflow? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think the other MVPs might have questions. So for the MVPs that want to respond, go ahead and raise your hand, and we can also ask for more context. I'll send out my blurb real quick. So it's interesting that you asked this question, because although the native workflow engine right now is pretty standard, right? You have your email alerts, you have your outbound messages, which a lot of people don't use unless you have your integration, and you have your task creation. And Safe Harbor on the roadmap is I got a preview of the it's called Headless Flow, and I got a preview of it at the developer user group meeting in San Francisco last month. And basically, you're going to be able to set up a visual workflow to create your task or send an email message or do anything you want. So anything that you can do declaratively in visual workflow today, which are create, insert, update, delete any object. You'll be able to do that inside of the normal workflow, and it's going to actually be a new option. So you'll actually select that option. So instead of having your traditional 3 workflow actions, you'll have another one which is called Trigger Something, and you'll be able to do that. It's on the roadmap, and I think I can talk about it because it was at the developer user group. Obviously, it's not GA. I think it's got one more pilot phase before it goes. The other way to do something of something like that would be to use triggers. I guess that's the old manual way. And
okay.
Then I guess some of the other MVPs could talk about. But if you have the option of waiting a release or 2, I would put that on the backlog, because it's definitely coming, and it's going to revolutionize Salesforce, because instead of writing triggers, you'll be able to just use this visual workflow to do it. And obviously that comes with whatever licensing Salesforce imposes on that. But it's definitely gonna blow admins' minds away. For sure.
So it's basically it's a feature in visual workflow essentially, or a new release of visual workflow that's going to do this, basically.
Yeah, you'll actually be able to leverage visual workflow inside of normal native workflows that you would create, workflow rules that you would create today.
Okay, cool. Got it.
All right, Deepa?
Well, I was trying to understand when he said different objects, are you looking to go do things towards non-related objects to an account, or
exactly.
are you trying?
Exactly. So
okay,
you know how, right.
So non-related objects, it's you can't do anything with the workflow. You have to write triggers for that, because there's no way that the point-and-click GUI is going to get to the non-related objects.
Exactly. That's pretty much what I was asking. Is I just didn't use the right term, so thanks for clarifying. But I just realized that's one of I'm more or less wondering how you guys deal with that outside of triggers. And when you answered the question today, it's pretty much triggers because the relational database just has restrictions on which objects are in the GUI based on the pairings. So that sounds like that's where we are today. And until the new visual workflow works out, it sounds like the answer is just to write a trigger.
Yeah, see, but even if, Joshua, tell me if I'm right or wrong, even with the visual workflow, wouldn't it still be dependent upon the relationships that are already established between the objects? Or am I wrong there?
It's completely open, just because you can pass the context of the record, and then you can make it query for other things within inside your Salesforce org before you actually start committing things. So it's going to be awesome. It's definitely going to extend the functionality that's limiting today. Cool. Rhonda?
I just wanted to make a comment about visual workflow. I will admit that I have not used it for any actual purpose, but I thought I was going to be able to use it in a project. I was a little bit intimidated by it until I came across something on AppExchange, which is a whole package that has examples of different ways that you can use visual workflow and some actual flows that you can use kind of as a starting point or just to play around with. So, if you don't want to wait until the enhancement comes out that Josh was mentioning, you might want to take a look at AppExchange and just search for visual workflow. It should pop up. And it was a really nice package. It really helped me get started and kind of figuring out how to use it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, do play around with it now, because basically the only feature that's going to be introduced new to the release when this feature comes out is the fact that you're going to be able to link it up to your workflow rule as a workflow action. It is going to give you, playing around with it before then will give you the opportunity to understand how you link the different elements together, how you set where it starts first, and the decision trees that it'll make. In order for it to qualify for something when it goes GA, it has to obviously not have a UI against it. So everything that you'll create now in Visual Workflow will have a UI, but it'll have to be recreated when that feature does come out, because the only flows that will be eligible to be put inside your workflow are going to be the ones that don't have a user interface, and that's why they're called headless flows, because they have no user interface.
Oh, is Visual Workflow pretty much where people should, if you're recommending to a customer that they should really focus their efforts on learning Visual Workflow because the standard workflow is either going to get phased out or it's too basic or any other reason?
No, it's in addition to. It's definitely not getting phased out. This is an extension of the functionality that's there today. So they should still spend their time on making sure that they know exactly when the rule should fire and exactly what should happen. I think one thing that is sort of intimidating in terms of the visual workflow is you can get in there and you can spend hours with building a flow. But really the process has to start from a BA perspective, is what exactly do you want to happen and why and when. And so what I find it most helpful to do is document that first so that you go into the visual workflow with a mission. If you just go in there without a mission, you can spend hours clicking around. But definitely set yourself up with the use case before you open up the visual workflow UI, so that you actually can do something productive to make a good academic exercise.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Cool. All right. Is that helpful?
Very much so. This is great. Thanks.
Cool. Awesome. All right. So we have more customers on the line. Go ahead and raise your hand. I think there is Benjamin. Benjamin, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks for joining. Tell us a couple things about you before you get started. So how you found out about MVP Office Hours, and a little bit about you and your background, and then that should set you up to go for it with your problem.
Sure. I'm just one of the Salesforce developers for a company called Big Machines, and I've just been working on it for 2 years. So we just making our own internal app. Well, not our own internal app. We make just a single app that we sell out.
Cool.
So, and I found out from the Salesforce IRC channel. So that's awesome.
Oh, that's awesome. It made it all the way there. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing.
Which I think was actually a repeat off the Twitter originally. So, anyways, so my question was, we have a page that gets rendered as a PDF. And inside of this, we pull in some data from the quote, specifically currency fields. And we're having some trouble formatting it for a display page. the reason being is twofold. One, we support, a single app supports multi-currency and single currency at the exact same time, with the exact same app, I should say. So whenever there's a multi-currency site and the user and the opportunity have different currencies, we do not want the parentheses showing multiple currencies happening. We just want to show the currency and the opportunities currency. So using the input field, or actually output field, which auto formats for us, is not an option. The second reason why we can't use it as well is because I believe if we use it, it causes some issues with advanced currency management. I don't think you're allowed to use input or output fields if they have that enabled. So we're just trying to figure out how to way to format numbers in a particular locale, and we haven't really found a good way of doing that. I mean, the locale is not exposed to us. We can format numbers in the user's context, but that doesn't mean it's formatted for the currency. It's just formatted for, you know, if they prefer commas or decimal places swapped, I guess. You know, like European style versus American style.
Yeah. So I'll admit, for the folks on the call, this is a little more of an Apex Visualforce thing, and we should start, I guess, prioritizing the hour and the half hour. I'll go ahead and take this one if anyone has any hands. I'll let Rhonda go first, and then.
Yeah, I'm sorry. This is my first time doing this, so.
Yeah, no, it's not your fault. It's just something that we wanted to start. It's actually more of my fault than yours. But I'll let Rhonda go, and then I'll chime in on my 2 cents.
Huge disclaimer, I don't know anything about Apex. So my suggestion may not work at all, but I'll throw it out anyway. Is it possible to take the output and put it into a number field, so not a currency field, just create a custom field and throw the output into that and then display that other field?
Like as a formula?
No, I was thinking just populate it through either workflow to populate it, or it couldn't be. I don't think it could be a formula because I'm thinking that it would have to be another currency field, and you want to put it into a text field, or a numeric field, or a text field. But I was thinking numeric field. So either populating it through a trigger or populating it through workflow field update.
All right. So you basically want to replicate the value to a number field, right? Is that what you're saying, Rhonda?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
I have no idea if that will work, but
I think that's the first step. One of the things that I would do is disclaimer, I haven't done Visualforce PDFs, but I'm just thinking through this problem tactically. If this function is not available on the platform, which I think it feels like a gap, it feels like this scenario is a little bit more complex because it has to do with ISVs and PDFs. Not a lot of people have this need unless they're doing CPQ out of Salesforce. So I think it's a unique use case. But if I had to do it from scratch, I would actually create a component and write a custom Apex class that formats it and follows all my rules. And I'd call that component inside my Visualforce page so that it would be reusable and I could use it in multiple places. And then I would write a blog post on what I did, and I would post it to the internet. that would be my recommendation, just because it sounds like what you want to do is so custom enough, and you also want to be able to reuse it in multiple places. So it might be good to componentize it, if that's a word.
I mean, that's possible. That for the multi-currency, that's actually easier because we can query the currency type, which has our at least the decimal places, but we don't have access to the user's locale, which means we don't know if they do commas for thousands and period for the hundreds and the decimal places, or if they swap it like the Euro style, which is where it's all the thousands places are a period while the decimal place is a comma. That's where we're having trouble retrieving that information.
Right. And your PDF generation, does it solely exist in the users org, or inside of or outside of Salesforce?
It's just within Salesforce. So,
Okay.
we don't even have to say it's a PDF generation because it is just a Visualforce page at the end of the day. And
Yeah.
we actually
So I was
just use
thinking maybe
OL
something
brand.
like Canvas. Because Canvas will probably give you the locale of the user as well, but that would only work if your PDF was done outside of Salesforce, because Canvas will give you the user context as well as the context of the record that they were looking at.
All right. All right. Well.
Any?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'll take a look into checking out Canvas or something.
So Canvas will definitely help you if it's an external site. If it's with inside of Salesforce, you said you cannot get the user's locale, right?
I haven't been able to find it. So yeah, I think it's completely hidden behind the scenes, unfortunately.
The user's locale should be on the user record for sure. It's a field that you should be able to extract there, but so you could evaluate that, and then you'd be able to check it out or to display it.
And if I wanted to get the opportunities currency, where would that?
Yeah,
the currency is listed. Yeah.
Yeah, the currency is listed on there as well. It's a native field. It's called like currency ISO.
Yeah.
And it's native to the opportunity.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, that does.
Is this helpful for you?
Yeah, that's the direction. We'll try it out.
Okay, cool. Yeah, definitely. If that doesn't work, feel free to post to the chatter group on success.salesforce.com, and we could chime in there.
All right.
All right.
Cool.
Rana, did you have something to add?
Nope.
Okay, cool. All right, let's go to the next person. Who is next? Let's see. I have a Joy here. I don't have a mic, so I can type only. Want to listen for the first time? No questions. Okay, so Joy is on, but she doesn't have a mic, so she doesn't have a question. So we went to Eric. Joy is there. Megan, are you out there?
Hi, yes, I'm here.
Hey, Megan, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Cool. So let's go over how you found out about MVP office hours and a little bit of context to set your problem up, and then you can drill into your problem.
Sure. So I heard about the office hours when you did your interview with Mike Gerholt on his podcast.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
And my question is kind of similar to the one I had last week about kind of managing change, but specifically about the translation workbench. And I don't know if maybe it would be a good question first is like if anybody is using the translation workbench.
I've used it before. What's your question about it?
Yeah, just about like managing the translations, because it's really hard. Like other than pulling out that export file, which requires some manipulation after you get it out of the system, it's kind of hard to know like where you're using the same word throughout the database. And I wonder, so right now I have an Excel spreadsheet that I'm kind of trying to keep up to date, which I'm finding extremely frustrating, especially as I'm making changes in the sandbox and then trying to remember whether those translations go into production, and I'm doing it entirely manually. And somebody had mentioned that you can see translations through Eclipse, and I wondered if that was something anybody had tried, or if that's a kind of a viable solution for trying to find everywhere that a specific word or phrase is being used and translated.
All excellent questions. The extended MVP community on this call, do you guys have anything to add on global or translation before? I can pull up the Eclipse real quick and show you what's there. It's probably definitely a more effective way of using it, because you can actually push that whole entire file from one org to another org. Immediately it just seems like I'm not so sure I would do double duty. It sounds like you're in a sandbox already. So do everything there, and then translations are deployable if they're if they can be viewed in Eclipse. But they would only be upserts. There wouldn't be destructive changes because Eclipse out of the box doesn't support destructive changes. So if you had a custom label, if you were translating something and that value for that language is blank, and you want to add something to it, you can certainly do that. But if you want it to blank it out again, which I don't think there's a real use case for that, you wouldn't really be able to blank it out again, per my understanding. But you would be able to replace the value if you wanted to. So you can continue pushing, and then obviously when you get done, you just refresh the file, and the whole entire file comes back. And then you can right-click on that and do send to server or deploy, and then type in the credentials of your target org, and it would actually deploy that those translations there. Depending on, I think you also have to have whatever fields you're translating or labels you're translating. Those elements need to exist inside the target org, else you'd have to push those before you push your translations. But definitely deployable. I don't know if they're in train sets yet, but I do know that there is a translations folder within Eclipse, and you should find that very helpful, even if it's just you installing Eclipse. And then just getting access to your org in Eclipse, you'll be able to see the translations file that you have already. You can just play with it. Just go into the translation and the language, and then for one of the values that you translated, just put like an X or a Z or 1, 2, 3, 4, and then save it. And that change should automatically be pushed. And then what I would do is I would just go to the UI and just verify it. It's probably the quickest way to do that. And if that's successful, you may just want to however that format is, you may just want to extract that and then start, instead of managing it in an Excel spreadsheet, you may want to start managing it in the XML format. So you can just copy and paste and add to this big XML, and then just copy and paste it back into the org.
Right, so it should, through Eclipse then it should probably be searchable, so then I could probably search for terms.
Yep.
Okay, it sounds like that should work. And I have Eclipse set up, I just haven't played with the translation piece yet, so I will definitely try that out. Thank you.
Yeah, go check it out. Any other comments from anyone else? Awesome. All right. So there's a Brian on. Brian McCass. Are you on? Are you out there?
Yep, Brian Makers right here.
Hey, how's it going? Did you have a question for us?
Nope, I'm just an observer today, though. Thanks.
Okay, awesome. Have you been getting value out of it so far?
Oh, absolutely. The visual flow idea alone is going to be a lifesaver, and I'm trying to think about how to leverage that.
Yep, that's right around the corner. Cool. All right, so I believe I've picked on everybody. Is there any other questions that anyone else, or just general, maybe even not specific to Salesforce or process management or anything really? We have another 30 minutes to go, but I'm happy to give people time back in their day if there's no other questions. Eric, you've got your hand raised.
Yeah, I've got another one. This is a reporting question, and this is another thing that comes up frequently. So when you want to push together multiple objects into a report, I know that the first thing you can do is use the report types, and you can get link 3 objects together that aren't already a pre-fabricated choice in the report folder. And then I know you can do joins to join reports together to have more objects, but it seems like you run into the same limitation of the non-related objects. And I'm wondering, for example, if you want to put, this is a really kind of simple thing, but if you want to put territories, campaigns, and accounts, opportunities, products, possibly cases, you pretty much can't do that without maybe doing a few joins or some pretty serious advanced stuff that you guys might know how to do. My question is, do you use Salesforce reporting to that, or do you punt and then go to an analytics tool, generally from what you guys see with customers with more advanced reporting needs like that?
Yeah, so first rule is Salesforce is not a BI platform. It's just not. It's not there, and may not immediately ever be. Great question. Usually, when I get sort of those types of bigger requests, I really break it down and say, what's the metric you're really trying to look at? Because when you look at people who need a measurement for cases, a measurement for accounts, and all these kinds of things, what they're really asking for is some type of dashboard that gives them KPIs. And so with Salesforce dashboards, you can actually place all of those metrics in one place and have that emailed to them, which makes a lot more sense. Other than that, I mean, if you were to produce a report like that in a BI platform, it would be all over the place, right? Because you'd have cases here, you've had accounts here, you've had maybe some type of contact metric. But really it's like, dumb it down to, really what they're trying to see and the best way to visualize that one KPI. And then I pretty much do a dashboard, which is just one report, which is usually achievable with inside of Salesforce. But then a collection of all those dashboard components linking to those single report actually tells a story. And that's the way I put together, some of those larger requirements. But if you're looking for, change data capture stats, how many fields do I have filled in yesterday versus how many fields do I have today, and completeness, and all that crazy stuff that a Cognos tool or Pentaho or something like that would those are the values of those tools, because they take a snapshot of the data and they process it as it comes into a data warehouse-like model.
Yeah.
But I would definitely recommend sort of taking a look at native dashboard and reports first, because if you dumb it down to that level, it's also understandable and comprehensible. The user can digest it a lot easier than having a developer spend time on a report and going through UAT, and they can adjust it as they like on demand.
Okay.
So two other MVPs have input. So Deepa?
I agree with Joshua 100% what he's saying, to dumb it down and break it down, but in certain situations where you just can't, what I found is Conga is really good at doing queries against different tables. And with Conga, you don't necessarily have to join tables, because what they do is they bring the data down into an Excel format, and then from there you can combine the data. So I found that tool to be quite useful when we totally run into limitations for Salesforce. But I agree 100% with Joshua. Like, a lot of times what the executives are really looking for is snapshots of everything, and they just have the way they know how to request is show me everything. But if you have a dashboard with all those components in one place, then you can absolutely tell a story from the front end of lead generation to the opportunity sales cycle to support.
Yeah, and I should have clarified a little bit too. So this is not trying to necessarily get granular data into some reports, more like at a summary level. So an example that has come up with at least a couple of times is more on from a capacity planning standpoint for a company to look at from a product perspective in certain territories and balance their campaigns against their product placement in certain territories, as well as the cases in terms of the product defects or returns and things like that, and to really get more kind of summary level data. And I agree, the dashboards are great to break those into pieces. But it sounds like if you're going to go for more more depth, or more strength in the report, that you really do need to go outside of Salesforce and for where the dashboards don't handle. So that's and
you may not have to go completely outside. I mean, if you have an Apex developer and a Visualforce developer in-house, you can actually use Visualforce components and create that same visualization that you would do outside. I think the only thing that you have to be concerned about is actually processing the data. How many records are we actually evaluating, and then the time that it takes to summarize those, and then whatever strategy you use to do that. Do you summarize the records nightly, and then you report on them, so it's more of a snapshot in time, and the snapshot gets replaced every 2 hours, and you use analytics snapshots? So in terms of data change capture, we know Salesforce doesn't do that. But we do know that as long as the data exists in Salesforce and it's crunchable within a good amount of time, you should be able to stay within the platform as long as you have developer resources that can write the Apex code and the Visualforce to meet those requirements.
Right. And what do you guys see for the extension of this is when you've got some data, maybe not a lot, but maybe you have a few components that are from an outside system, and they don't necessarily want to bring it into Salesforce because whether it's data storage reasons, or just additional time for generating reports. Is that pretty much the key, that they go out, try to do more outside because bring the Salesforce data outside, or bring the data externally into Salesforce? Again, if it's not a lot, if it's not, maybe if it's some invoice information or some order information that's somewhere else.
Yeah, I'm a huge component of making sure the data is inside of Salesforce, even if it's at a summary level, because I think that that's the most effective tool where everyone has access to see a 360-degree view with lowering the development effort for the outside boundary systems. Because anytime there's a net new request for an on-premise system or something like that, you're going to have to go outside. Now, there are some systems that people use to service their customers that sit outside that need to latch on to Salesforce data. And in that case, normally I recommend just they get a tool like DBAMP or Talend, or they build some type of integration to extract the records out of Salesforce and stage them inside of a data warehouse to consume them that way. But if you can have everything going into Salesforce, then that's the place to be, because you have all these value adds that you just don't get in a normal on-prem system.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, Steve, you got something to add?
I didn't even know I still had my hand. I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself. What your initial point, Josh, about the dashboards. Only thing, I mean, I don't think you mentioned it, but I mean, taking the dashboard a step further, dashboard filters. I mean, so you get a dashboard, you get cases are related to accounts. Cases can be related to products. So can an opportunity can be related to an account. So many times people come up with these I want this everything under the sun report, but at the end of the day, it's like, really? Well, do me a favor. Throw together an Excel spreadsheet and show me a mock-up of what you really want this report to look like. And at the end of the day, it's like, that they want that 20,000-foot view, and if something doesn't look right, then they want to drill down. And that's again, Josh, he really hit the nail on the head for me with going to the dashboard, going up to that satellite view, and if something doesn't look right, then drill through that chart, and now you're in that report that has that detail, and taking it back going back up a step to the dashboard level, applying common fields like product name or account name or something like that, and using them in a dashboard filter.
I agree. Yeah, the helpers are great.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I mean, invoice data and billing information, consistently sits out of Salesforce because it's sometimes not the tool of choice for invoicing and billing because it's not an ERP. But I'm a firm believer that the results of whatever goes out to the customer should be visible for the sales team and operations teams to use to help them have more intelligent conversations about their customers, and then you tie it into the dashboard. You can sort of tie all the pieces together. So step one is the foundation of getting the data in one place. There's lots of conversations you can have around is it really required because of storage, and in a lot of areas we sort of fight that because the value of having that exposed to everyone in one system versus having two windows open and all that kind of stuff is a lot more compelling than old processes that are broken and they require more administrative overhead because they have to have a user in both systems and all that other kind of jazz.
Okay, gotcha. And the tool again that she mentioned the Conga query tool that pops in Excel. Is that somewhat similar to, maybe not exactly, but they used to have the Excel connector for Salesforce that they used to provide. Is that still an option too, or is that kind of not really being used anymore?
The Excel connector is still available to you, but the thing that I personally don't like about the Excel connector is it's like you're working with live data, and there's a very good chance that someone who doesn't know what they're doing could easily cause damage to the system. With Salesforce, like with Conga, what they do is they run Stockwell queries against the data. So it's like the queries are run out separately from a live connection. So there's a very you don't have a chance of doing any damage to your data. And the other thing I find is that I can test my queries with, there's a different tool and I'm forgetting the name of it right now, to make sure that I get the data that I want, and then I run it. And the other great thing that I like about Conga is that you can schedule your reports and email them, and there's a lot more advanced functionality that Conga has. We use it at a client where we are running reports on a weekly basis to see which opportunities are up for renewals, and then the renewal person gets an email saying these opportunities are up for renewal, and they get a huge list. So it's not on a one-by-one basis. They get the entire list, and they can start following up. So there's a lot of different use cases. But personally, I don't like giving Excel connector to end users at all. I mean, it's a tool for admins who know what they're doing and not cause any damage to data. I don't know what the others think, but at least that's what I feel personally.
Yeah, I absolutely support that. So yeah, Excel connectors is probably definitely a resource for a resource. And it's also sort of time-consuming to wait, and it could hang based on how many records you're trying to edit. One good thing that Deepa did mention is what Conga Merge does is you can actually write the Stockwell statements, and what it does is it puts the data returned from those SQL statements, those Stockwell queries, inside of a tab. And basically, you get your whole entire data set that you have available in your report. And then what you do is you build your template using that data set that's available in your Excel. And there's a way to sort of store those Stockwell queries and store the template so that every single time you need that generated, it basically pulls down an Excel spreadsheet, and then it uses the source, which information inside that Excel spreadsheet, to populate the template. So you could do repeating, you can do, so it's definitely a really, really powerful tool. I just got to plug them because they're awesome. They've sponsored a lot of Dreamforce 2U events in Florida, and their support is amazing. So,
and one more thing to add, Joshua, one more thing to add as well is that you can have one button, and the user clicks on that one button, and the entire report can come out in an Excel format or a PDF, and you just literally download onto your machine. And it's like a totally seamless thing that you can design for the customer. So it makes it a lot easier. I personally use it to generate my invoices from Salesforce, and it's a one-click thing, where I click on a button and the entire invoice comes down in a Word format. And so they also have multiple formats. You can have Word, you can have Excel, you can have PowerPoint, and you can have a PDF. So it's multiple outputs that you can get from them as well.
Oh, great. Well, thank you guys. I really appreciate the insight on this topic.
Yeah, absolutely. Rhonda?
Oh, I was just going to say a lot of what was said already, that I happen to love Excel Connector, but based on what you described as what you're trying to solve, I think Conga would be a much better solution. And I have my hand raised because of what Deepa just said that I hadn't said before, that kind of to reinforce what Josh was saying. The nice thing is that you can create the button, put it right in Salesforce. So from the user perspective, if they want to run the report, they're still in Salesforce. They're seeing all the data, and they can either have a schedule to send to them, or they can do it on demand. So very powerful.
Oh, great.
Yeah,
Thanks.
absolutely. Great, a lot of great topics and good conversation. Any more questions from anyone else on the call? All right, so is there anyone that has not registered for Dreamforce yet? Speak now or forever hold your peace. If you have not registered for Dreamforce, there is a special code that will save you $100. I'll work on putting a slide up, but for those of you, I don't know if I can do this very easily. For those of you that are looking at the chat, I'm going to paste a code inside the chat, and that will be for all of you guys who haven't registered yet. You can actually use this code, and that code will give you $100 off your registration. And that's it. Any more questions from anyone? Awesome. So I'm going to give people 10 minutes back in their day as I close this call out. Thank you guys for attending. Please do feel free to send other people to officehours.info. That will bring you to the chatter group that's on the success.salesforce.com. And you can register using the register link for the next one. And if there are any more follow-up questions that you have based upon the answers that you received today in the session, feel free to post there as well, and we can all continue the conversation on the chatter group. Other than that, thank you very much for attending, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Please stand by.